The ship was cold. Park Do-hyun stood at the window and looked at the space station growing larger. It was massive, bigger than any building on Earth, bigger than any city. The station floated in the black emptiness like a metal flower with 1,000 petals. He was the first Korean soldier to join the Galactic Coalition's training program. He was also one of the first humans ever. That thought made his stomach tight. Not from fear, from something else. Something that felt like hunger. The transport ship docked with a soft thump. Do-hyun picked up his bag. It was small. He did not bring much. Clothes, a photo of his mother, a book his father gave him before he died. That was all. The airlock opened. Cold air rushed in. It smelled strange. Clean but also wrong. Like metal and flowers mixed together. A tall creature waited for him on the other side. It was beautiful in a strange way. Very thin, very pale. Its bones looked hollow like a bird's bones. Its eyes were large and silver. "I am Lyra," the creature said. Its voice was soft like wind. "I am Valari. I will take you to the commander." Do-hyun bowed slightly. A habit from home. "Thank you." "I am Park Do-hyun." Lyra looked at him for a long moment. Her silver eyes moved up and down his body. She was studying him, like a scientist studies a bug. "You are smaller than I expected," she said. Do-hyun smiled. He was used to this. "I get that a lot." They walked through long hallways. The station was full of aliens. Do-hyun saw creatures with 4 arms. Creatures with scales. Creatures that floated instead of walked. Some were huge. Some were tiny. All of them looked at him as he passed. He heard whispers. He did not understand the words, but he understood the tone. They were surprised, confused. Some of them laughed. He kept walking. The commander's office was at the center of the station. The doors were 3 times taller than Do-hyun. They opened slowly, and he stepped inside. Commander Gorath sat behind a desk made of dark metal. He was Kreth, 4 arms, thick muscles, skin like gray stone. His eyes were small and yellow. They looked at Do-hyun the way a lion looks at a mouse. "So," Gorath said. His voice was deep. It shook the floor. "This is the human." Do-hyun stood straight. "Yes, Commander." "Lieutenant Park Do-hyun. Reporting for duty." Gorath laughed. The sound was like rocks falling. "Duty, yes. Let me tell you about your duty, human." He stood up. He was almost 3 meters tall. His 4 arms were thick as tree trunks. "The coalition has existed for 3,000 years, Gorath said. "We have united 47 species. We have fought wars across 100 star systems. We have seen empires rise and fall." He walked around his desk. Each step made the floor shake. "And then your species discovered faster than light travel. And the coalition said, 'Let us welcome them. Let us teach them.' So here you are." He stopped in front of Do-hyun. He looked down at the human like Do-hyun was a child. "Do you know what classification your species received?" "Tier 7, the lowest possible rank for a spacefaring civilization." "Do you know why?" Do-hyun did not answer. He knew why. "Because you are weak," Gorath said. "You require 8 hours of unconsciousness every day. Your bodies cannot regulate temperature properly. You break easily. You heal slowly. You die from things that other species do not even notice." He leaned closer. His breath was hot and smelled like copper. "You are here as a courtesy. Nothing more. Do not expect to keep up with real soldiers." Do-hyun looked up at the commander. He did not blink. "I understand, sir." "Good. Lyra will show you to your quarters. Stay out of trouble." Do-hyun bowed and left Dot in the hallway. Lyra walked beside him in silence. After a while, she spoke. You did not argue with him. No. Most species would. The Kreth respect strength. They expect others to challenge them. Do-hyun shrugged. I am not most species. His quarters were small. A bed, a desk, a window that looked out at the stars. It was enough. Lyra stood at the door. The dining hall opens at 0600. Training begins at 0800. I suggest you rest. The journey was long. Thank you. She started to leave, then stopped. May I ask you something? Yes. Why did you volunteer for this program? You must have known how we would see you. How everyone would see you. Don set his bag on the bed. He looked out the window at the endless darkness. My father was a soldier, he said. He used to tell me something. He said, the dog that barks loudest is not the strongest. The strongest dog is the one still standing at the end. He turned to face her. I am not here to bark. I am here to stand. Lyra did not respond. She simply nodded and left. Do-hyun checked his watch. It was 2300 station time. He should sleep. His body was tired from the journey. Instead, he dropped to the floor and began doing push-ups. 1, 2, 3. His muscles burned. His arms shook. 20, 21, 20-2. The commander's words echoed in his head. Weak, fragile, decorative. 50, 51, 50-2. He kept going. The floor was cold against his palms. Sweat dripped from his face. 100. He stopped. His chest heaved. His heart pounded. Then he started again. 1, 2, 3. Outside his window, the stars watched in silence. They had seen many species come and go. They had seen empires rise and fall. They had never seen a creature quite like this, a creature that refused to stop. Lyra could not sleep. This was strange because Valari always slept well. Their bodies were efficient. When they were tired, they rested. When they were hungry, they ate. They never wasted energy on unnecessary things. But tonight, her mind would not stop working. She kept thinking about the human. About the look in his eyes when he said, I am here to stand. At 0400, she gave up on sleep. She walked to the observation deck to watch the stars. But when she passed the training room, she stopped. The lights were on. She looked through the window. The human was inside. He was on the floor, pushing his body up and down. Up and down. Up and down. His face was red. His shirt was dark with sweat. Lyra checked their tablet. The station records showed that Park Do-hyun had not left his quarters since 2300. That was 5 hours ago. Had he been exercising this whole time? She watched him for 10 minutes. He did not stop. He did not slow down. He just kept going. Up and down. Up and down. Finally, she entered the room. Do-hyun looked up but did not stop. Good morning, he said between breaths. It is 0400. Most species are asleep. I know. You should be resting. Your species requires significant sleep. I slept enough. He finished his push-ups and stood. His legs shook slightly. He walked to a machine with heavy weights and began lifting. Lyra watched with growing confusion. Her scanner was running. She could see his heart rate. It was dangerously high. She could see his muscle tissue. It was tearing. Tiny rips forming in the fibers. You are damaging yourself, she said. Do-hyun grunted as he lifted. That is the point. I do not understand. He set the weights down and wiped his face with a towel. When humans exercise, we break our muscles down. Small tears. Tiny damage. Then our bodies repair the damage. And when they repair it, they make the muscles stronger than before. Lyra processed this information. It seemed inefficient, wasteful. Why damage yourself just to heal? The Valari do not do this, she said. I know. Your bodies are perfect the way they are. Efficient. Elegant. He picked up the weights again. Human bodies are not perfect. So we have to make them better ourselves. He continued lifting. Lyra continued watching. Over the next 2 weeks, she observed him every day. She told herself it was for science. For research. The coalition had never studied humans closely before. She was gathering valuable data, but the truth was simpler. She was fascinated. Every morning. Do-hyun woke at 04:00. He did 200 push-ups, 200 sit-ups. He ran 10 kilometers on the track that circled the station's outer ring. Then he lifted weights until his arms could barely move. After that, he attended training with the other soldiers. He was the smallest one there, the weakest. The Kreth warriors could lift 10 times what he could. The Umi strategists could think 5 times faster. Even the Valari, who were not known for strength, were more graceful and precise. But Do-hyun never complained. He never made excuses. He just worked harder. One day, Lyra reported her findings to Commander Gorith. The human appears to be malfunctioning, she said. He deliberately damages his body every day. He pushes himself far beyond safe limits. I believe he may be mentally unstable. Gorith laughed his rumbling laugh. Let him break himself. It will only prove what we already know. Humans are weak. They do not belong here. Lyra left the commander's office feeling unsatisfied. Something about his answer bothered her. That night, she found Dr. Yoon Somi in the medical bay. Somi was the human scientist assigned to the station. She was older than Do-hyun, calmer. She had kind eyes and a warm smile. Dr. Yoon, Lyra said, may I ask you some questions about humans? Somi looked up from her work. Of course. Please, sit. Lyra sat on a chair that was too big for her thin frame. I have been observing Lieutenant Park. His behavior confuses me. His training? Yes, he damages himself constantly. Every day, he tears his muscles, exhausts his body, pushes past every reasonable limit. Why does he do this? Somi smiled. It was a sad smile, but also proud. We call it training. It is how humans have survived for 200,000 years. Survived what? Everything. Somi turned to face her fully. Do you know what Earth is like? Our home planet? I have read the reports. Class 4 planet. Diverse biosphere. Somi laughed softly. Class 4. That is a polite way to say death world. 70% of Earth's surface is covered in water that we cannot breathe. The land is filled with predators, poison plants, and extreme temperatures. Earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes. Our own sun gives us cancer if we stand in it too long. Lyra's silver eyes widened. How did your species survive? We adapted. Not through evolution. That takes too long. We adapted through will, through stubbornness, through training. She leaned forward. A human body is weak, yes. But a human body that has been trained? That is something different. That is something dangerous. Lyra thought about this. So when Do-hyun damages himself, he is sending a message to his body. He is saying, this is not enough. Be stronger. Be faster. Be more, and his body listens. That is remarkable. That is human. Lyra returned to her quarters that night with new understanding. She pulled up her observation data and looked at it again. The pattern she had seen as malfunction now looked different. Day 1. Do-hyun lifted 50 kilograms. Day 7. 55 kilograms. Day 14. 62 kilograms. His body was getting stronger. Not by much. Not quickly. But steadily, surely, like water wearing down stone. She thought about the Kreth. They were born strong. They did not need to improve. They simply were. She thought about the Valari. They were born efficient. They did not waste energy on unnecessary growth. They simply existed. But humans were born weak. And instead of accepting that weakness, they fought against it. Every single day, Lyra looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, a death world. A planet that tried to kill its children every single day. And those children refused to die. For the first time in her life, Lyra felt something she had never felt before. She felt afraid of humans. And also, strangely, impressed. The alarm screamed through the station like a wounded animal. Da-Yun was in the middle of his evening run when the red lights started flashing. He stopped immediately. Around him, aliens of every species froze. Fear spread across their faces. "Hull breach in Section 7, a voice announced. "Emergency. Hull breach in Section 7. Da-Yun ran toward the command center. His legs burned from the exercise, but he ignored them. By the time he arrived, the room was chaos. Commander Gorath stood at the main screen, shouting orders. Lyra worked frantically at her station. Dr. Yoon was already there, her face pale with worry. "What happened?" Do-Hyun asked. Gorath barely looked at him. "A micrometeor strike. It punched through the outer hull in Section 7. The emergency bulkheads should have sealed automatically, but they malfunctioned." On the screen, Da-Yun could see the damage. A hole in the station's side. Air rushing out into space. And trapped on the other side of the broken bulkheads, a group of figures huddled together. "The Umi engineering team," Lyra said. Her voice was tight. 12 of them. They were doing repairs in that section. "How much time do they have?" "Minutes. Maybe less." Gorath slammed his fist on the console. The metal dented under his strength. "The bulkheads can be closed manually, but the control mechanism is in the maintenance corridor. It is too small for Kreth bodies." "Send a Valari," someone suggested. "The manual crank requires 200 kilograms of sustained force. No Valari is strong enough." The room fell silent. On the screen, the Umi engineers pressed themselves against the far wall. The air around them grew thinner by the second. "How long do they need someone to turn the crank?" Do-Hyun asked. Garth looked at him with irritation. 15 minutes, continuous, without stopping. I will do it." The commander laughed. It was not a kind laugh. "You? Human, you have been awake for 18 hours. You completed your exercise ritual this morning. Your body requires rest. I do not care what my body requires. You will collapse before 5 minutes have passed." Don stepped forward. His eyes met Gorath's. The human was small. The Kreth was massive. But in that moment, something in Do-Hyun's gaze made the commander hesitate. "Those are living beings trapped in there," Do-Hyun said. "I am not going to stand here and watch them die because you think I am too weak." Gorath stared at him for a long moment. Then he stepped aside. "The maintenance corridor is through that door. You have 15 minutes. Do not fail." Do-Hyun ran. The maintenance corridor was narrow and dark. Pipes and cables lined the walls. The air was cold and tasted like metal. Do-Hyun squeezed through spaces that would have stopped any Kreth thought. He found the manual crank at the end of the corridor. It was a large wheel designed for Kreth hands. 4 handles stuck out from its center. A display on the wall showed the bulkhead status. Open. Do-Hyun grabbed 2 of the handles. He pulled out. Nothing happened. He adjusted his grip. He planted his feet. He pulled again, putting his entire body into the motion. The wheel moved, barely, just a few centimeters. Pain exploded through his shoulders. His arms screamed in protest. His muscles, already tired from the morning's training, begged him to stop. He kept pulling. In the command center, Lyra watched the human's vital signs on her screen. His heart rate was climbing. 120 beats per minute. 140. 160. He is pushing too hard, she said. His cardiovascular system cannot sustain this. Dr. Yoon stood beside her, her hands clasped together. He knows. Then why does he not stop? Because he is human. On the screen, they watched the bulkhead slowly closing, centimeter by centimeter. The Umi engineers saw it moving. Hope appeared on their amphibious faces. 5 minutes passed. Do-hyun's arms shook violently. Sweat poured down his face, dripping onto the floor. His vision started to blur at the edges. 10 minutes. His heart rate hit 190. His body released adrenaline in quantities that should have been dangerous. Every cell in his body screamed at him to stop, to rest, to survive. He thought about his father, about the day the old man had carried him 10 kilometers through a snowstorm to reach a hospital, about the words he had spoken through frozen lips. You do not stop. You never stop. Not until it is done. Do-hyun pulled harder. 12 minutes. The bulkhead was almost closed. Just a small gap remained. Air still rushed through it, but slower now. 13 minutes. Do-hyun could not see anymore. The world was just darkness and pain and the feeling of the metal handles cutting into his palms. 14 minutes. He heard someone screaming. It took him a moment to realize it was himself. 15 minutes. The display changed. Sealed. Do-hyun let go of the handles. He collapsed onto the floor. His chest heaved. His heart pounded so hard he thought it might burst. He lay there in the darkness for a long moment. Then, slowly, he pushed himself up onto his hands and knees. Lieutenant Park. Lyra's voice came through the communication system. The bulkhead is sealed. The engineers are safe. Medical teams are on their way to you. Please remain still. Dawn did not remain still. He got into push-up position. What are you doing? Lyra demanded. Her voice was high with confusion. You nearly died. Your body is in critical condition. You need to rest. I only got to 87 this morning, Do-hyun gasped. I owed myself 30 more. He did 1 push-up. His arm shook so badly he almost fell. 2, 3, 4. This is insane, Lyra said. Do-hyun kept going. 10, 11, 12. 13. He reached 100. For a moment, he lay on the floor, breathing hard. Then he started again. 1. He whispered Dot in the command center. Gorath watched the human on the screen. The massive Kreth commander said nothing. His yellow eyes were wide. His forearms hung loose at his sides. He had seen many things in his long life. He had seen warriors fight and die. He had seen heroes perform impossible acts. He had seen species rise and fall, but he had never seen anything like this. A creature so weak, so fragile, so utterly broken, and still refusing to stop. Do-hyun reached 100 push-ups again. He collapsed onto the cold floor of the corridor. The medical team found him there 5 minutes later, unconscious, a small smile on his face. He had done 200 push-ups because his body told him he could not, and he did not listen. Aliens thought humans were prey. Humanity proved they were the deadly ones. Part 4. The galaxy takes notice. The news of humanity's victory spread across the stars like fire. On Veth worlds, commanders watched the recordings with horror. Their greatest battlecruiser destroyed by creatures they had marked as prey. Their unbeatable soldiers killed by beings half their size. This was impossible. This could not be real, but it was real. And the galaxy would never be the same. On Earth, the Solar Parliament met in emergency session. Leaders from every nation sat together. They had received the transmission from the Eternal Dawn. They had seen what the Veth did to their people. and they had seen what their people did back. Representative Shin Boyang stood before the assembly. She was small and thin and looked like a grandmother, but her eyes were cold. Her son had been on the Eternal Dawn. He died in the first attack. The Veth declared us prey, she said. Her voice was quiet, but everyone heard every word. They hunted our people for sport. They recorded it for entertainment. They laughed as our children died. She paused. The room was silent. Some say we should make peace. Some say we should hide. Some say we should beg them to leave us alone. Her voice grew stronger. I say no. I say we make them pay. I say we find every species they have hurt and we free them. I say we burn their empire to the ground. The room exploded with voices. Some agreed. Some were afraid. But when the vote came, it was not even close. Earth would go to war. Captain Park Do-yoon returned home a hero. The Solar Parliament made him Fleet Admiral. He did not want the job. He had tried to leave war behind. But sometimes war does not let you go. We need ships, he told the Parliament. We need soldiers. We need weapons. The Veth will come for us with everything they have. We need to be ready. The building began. Mars became a fortress. Its surface was covered with weapons that could shoot ships out of space. The asteroid belt became a trap. Millions of mines floated silently, waiting. Around Jupiter's moons, secret shipyards worked day and night. But humanity was not alone in this fight. An alien ship appeared in Earth space. It was not Veth. It was smooth and silver and moved like water. The beings inside called themselves the Lorth Collective. They had watched the Veth for thousands of years. They had seen species rise and fall under Veth claws. They had never acted, until now. Ambassador Veleth Prime came to Earth to meet the humans. He expected to find them celebrating their victory. Instead, he found them preparing for more war. Soldiers trained in every city. Factories built weapons without rest. Children learned how to fight. You defeated the Veth, Veleth Prime said to Admiral Park Do-hyun. You can negotiate peace. Why do you prepare for more battle? Park Do-hyun looked at the alien with tired eyes. Peace with the Veth is not possible. They do not see us as equals. They see us as food. You cannot make peace with someone who wants to eat you. But surely, we found the records, Park Do-hyun interrupted. We know what they did to other species. The torture, the hunting, the slavery. Even if they offered peace, we would not accept it. Not after what we saw. Veleth Prime was silent for a long moment. You plan to destroy them completely? No, we plan to stop them. There's a difference. We are not monsters. We do not kill for sport. But we will not let them hurt anyone else, ever. Lieutenant Kim Yuna worked in a dark room filled with screens. She had become the head of intelligence. Her job was to learn everything about the Veth, and she was very good at her job. She had captured Veth prisoners. She had found their records. She had broken their codes. And what she learned made her sick. They have enslaved 12 species, she reported to Admiral Park Do-hyun. Billions of beings work in their mines and factories. They are treated worse than animals. The Veth kill them for fun. They breed them like cattle. Park Do-hyun closed his eyes. Where is their homeworld? I have the location. But Admiral, they have 500 warships protecting it. Even with everything we are building, we cannot match that. We do not need to match it. We need to break it. Park Do-hyun opened his eyes. Contact the enslaved species, quietly. Tell them help is coming. Tell them to be ready. Messages traveled through secret channels. On Veth slave worlds, beings who had given up hope began to whisper. Humans are coming. The prey became predators. They are coming for us. Dr. Han Minji, worked with scientists from the Larth Collective. They studied Veth biology. They found weaknesses. They created new weapons. Their nervous system is sensitive to certain frequencies, Minji explained. We can create sound weapons that will disable them without killing. Their shell is weak to acid. Their eyes cannot handle sudden light changes. You are creating ways to fight them more efficiently, a Larth scientist said. Yes, and ways to capture them alive. We want to stop them, not end them. There is a difference. The Larth scientist was surprised. Other species we have seen, when given power, use it to destroy completely. Why do humans hold back? Minji thought about the question. Because we know what it is like to be cruel. We have been cruel to each other for thousands of years. We have learned that cruelty creates more cruelty. We want to break that cycle, not continue it. Sergeant Cho Tai-Wu was no longer a private. He had been promoted twice. He now led his own squad of Marines. But he still remembered being that scared young man waking up in a cold chamber. Ambassador Velith Prime found him training new soldiers. The alien watched for a while before speaking. May I ask you something? Velith Prime said. Cho Tai-Wu nodded. When the Veth attacked, why did your people not surrender? Every other species we have seen gave up when they realized they could not win. Your people were smaller, weaker, with worse technology. Logic said you would lose. Why did you fight? Cho Tai-Wu stopped training. He thought about the question seriously. Because surrender was not an option, he finally said. The Veth did not offer to let us live as slaves. They offered to hunt us like animals. When someone takes away all your choices, you become free. Free to do anything. Free to fight with everything you have. Free to die trying. That sounds terrible. It is. It is. But it is also powerful. Cho Tai-Wu looked at the alien. The Veth, they understood fear. They use fear as a weapon. But fear only works when you have something to lose. When you have nothing left to lose, fear becomes something else. What does it become? Rage. And rage is much more dangerous than fear. The Veth Empire gathered its forces. 500 warships. Millions of soldiers. The largest army in their history. Their emperor broadcast a message to Earth. Surrender your world. Give us your people, or we will burn you from the stars. You have one day to decide. Admiral Park Do-hyun broadcast his response. It was only 3 words. Come and try. Behind him, the full strength of human military power became visible. 200 new warships built in secret. The fortress of Mars with its planet-killing weapons. The asteroid belt trap that would swallow entire fleets, and beside the human ships, other ships appeared. The Larth Collective had joined, and behind them, ships from a dozen other species. The enslaved who had escaped, the victims who wanted revenge, the free who wanted to help. They called themselves the Coalition of the Freed. The final battle was coming. And this time, humanity would not fight alone. End of Part 4. Aliens thought humans were prey. Humanity proved they were the deadly ones. Part 5. Humanity Ascendant. The Veth Armada entered human space like a dark cloud. 500 warships. Each one carried thousands of soldiers. Each one had weapons that could crack planets. The Emperor himself led the fleet from his flagship, the Eternal Hunger. He wanted to watch the prey die with his own eyes. Admiral Park Do-hyun stood on the bridge of his command ship, the Unyielding. Around him, 200 human warships waited. Behind them, the Coalition fleet added another 100 ships. It was still not enough to match the Veth numbers. But Park Do-hyun smiled. They are entering the asteroid belt, Lieutenant Kim Yuna reported. Good. Activate the mines. The asteroid belt came alive. Millions of hidden explosives detonated. Asteroids that had been carefully moved over months crashed into the Veth formation. Ships that had survived space battles for centuries were crushed by rocks. 50 Veth ships died in the first minute. The Emperor screamed orders. His fleet scattered and regrouped. They pushed forward. They would not be stopped by rocks. But the rocks were just the beginning. From behind Jupiter's moons, more human ships appeared. They had been hiding, waiting. Torpedoes flew across space. Lasers cut through the darkness. The Veth fired back with everything they had. The Battle of Sol had begun. For 3 days, the war raged across the solar system. Ships died in fire and silence. Bodies floated in the cold dark. Heroes were made and heroes were lost. The black of space became bright with explosions. Sergeant Cho Taiwu led his company in the defense of Europa. The icy moon held a critical communication station. If the Veth took it, they could break human coordination. 300 Veth soldiers landed on Europa. Cho Taiwu had 50 Marines. "We hold this position," he told his soldiers. No matter what. The fight lasted 18 hours. The Veth came in waves. Cho Taiwu's Marines fell one by one. But for every human that died, 10 Veth died with them. The ice of Europa turned red with blood of 2 species. When reinforcements finally arrived, Cho Taiwu was the last one standing. He was wounded in 7 places. His armor was broken. His weapons were empty. He had killed the last Veth with his bare hands. The medic who found him started crying. "How are you still alive?" Cho Taiwu looked at her with empty eyes. "I made a promise. We would hold." So he held. In space, Admiral Park Do-hyun executed his master plan. He had lured the main Veth fleet into Saturn's rings. The same rings where he had won his greatest victory decades ago. Now, he ordered, hidden stations fired gravitational weapons. Not at the Veth ships. At the rings themselves. Massive chunks of ice and rock suddenly fell toward the Veth fleet. The Veth tried to run. But there were too many rocks. Moving too fast. Coming from every direction. Ships were crushed. Ships were thrown into each other. The greatest fleet the Veth had ever gathered was being destroyed by ice. The Emperor's flagship escaped the trap. It ran toward Earth with 100 surviving ships. If they could not win the battle, they would destroy the human homeworld. "Stop them," Park Do-hyun ordered. The coalition fleet moved to intercept. But they were too far away. They would not reach Earth in time. Then a small ship flew directly at the Emperor's flagship. It was barely visible on sensors. It carried one person. Specialist Yoon Haran had volunteered again. "Hello again," she broadcast on all channels. "Remember me? The one who blew up your last flagship? I brought more explosives this time." The Emperor ordered his ships to destroy her. They tried. She was too fast. Too unpredictable. She flew like someone who did not care if she lived or died, because she did not dot her ship. Crashed into the Eternal Hunger shield generators. The explosion killed her instantly, but it also dropped the flagship shields. Human weapons found their target. The Eternal Hunger died in fire. The remaining Veth ships scattered. Some surrendered. Some ran. Some fought until they were destroyed. By the end of the 3rd day, only 20 Veth warships still flew. They were surrounded by coalition forces. Lieutenant Kim Yuna broadcast a final message to them. "Surrender. You will be treated fairly. We are not like you." The Veth surrendered. Across the galaxy, the news spread instantly. The Veth dominion was broken. Their emperor was dead. Their fleet was destroyed. Their empire was crumbling. On 100 slave worlds, beings rose up against their masters. Veth soldiers who had terrorized populations for generations suddenly found themselves alone and outnumbered. Most surrendered. Those who did not were shown the same mercy they had shown others. None. 6 months after the Battle of Seoul, representatives from every species in the former Veth territories gathered on Earth. They came to create something new. Not an empire, not a dominion. Something better. They called it the Terran Protectorate. Its purpose was simple. No species would ever be prey again. Admiral Park Do-yoon spoke at the founding ceremony. He was old now, tired, but his voice was strong. We did not want this war. We were colonists looking for a new home. But when monsters came, we fought back. And we found something unexpected. We found friends. We found allies. We found that we were not alone in the universe. He looked at the representatives of a dozen species. Many of them had been slaves just months ago. The Terran Protectorate is not about human power. It is about the power of beings who refuse to be prey. We will defend each other. We will protect each other. And if anyone ever tries to hunt us again, they will learn the same lesson the Veth learned. He paused. Do not mistake kindness for weakness. Do not mistake mercy for fear. We chose to be kind. We chose to be merciful. But we can choose differently if we must. 20 years passed. The galaxy changed. Species that had been slaves built new civilizations. Trade routes connected worlds that had never spoken before. Peace spread across the stars. Ambassador Cho Taiwu represented humanity at the Galactic Council. He was old now too. His body carried scars from Europa and a dozen other battles. But his mind was still sharp. A young alien delegate approached him. She was from a species that had been freed from Veth slavery. She had grown up hearing stories about humans. May I ask you something, Ambassador? She said. He smiled. Of course. The stories say humans were classified as prey. Weak. Easy to kill. But you destroyed the greatest empire in the galaxy. How? Why did you not break like every other species? Cho Taiwu thought about the question. He remembered waking up in that cold chamber, seeing the alien drag a human body, feeling fear, and then feeling something else. Humans spent thousands of years fighting each other, he said slowly. We survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and ourselves. We learned that survival is not about being the biggest or the strongest. It is about never giving up, never accepting defeat, always finding a way. But the Veth were so much more powerful. Power is not everything. The Veth had power, but they had never been challenged. They did not know how to lose. They did not know how to adapt. They did not know how to face someone who would rather die than surrender. The young alien thought about this. So humans won because you were too stubborn to lose? Cho Taiwu laughed. It was the first time he had laughed in years. Yes, that is exactly right. We are the most stubborn species in the galaxy. He looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Europa, where he had lost everything and found something stronger. Somewhere was the asteroid belt, where Park Do-hyun had broken an empire. Somewhere was the spot where Yoon Heron had smiled and flown into fire. The Veth thought they were predators, he said quietly. They had no idea what a predator really looks like. What does a predator really look like? Cho Taiwu turned to face her. His eyes held the weight of all he had seen, all he had done, all he had survived. It looks like someone who has survived everything. Someone who has nothing left to fear. Someone who will stand up no matter how many times they are knocked down. He smiled. It looks like us. The young alien nodded slowly. She understood now. The humans had not won because they were stronger or smarter or more advanced. They had won because they simply refused to be prey. And that made all the difference. The end.